Okay, I think we are live. I think I've got the timing on this a little bit better. I'm turning challenges into opportunities when it comes to these live videos. Awesome. Welcome, everybody, to day 3 of Revamp Your Repertoire. Day 3 is Know Your Audience. If you are here online, I just feel free to say hello. Hey, Cherry. Just drop a line, and I just want to know that you're watching. All right. Know your audience. Oh, actually, before we get into this, I want to talk about yesterday. And I'm just curious how your asset mapping was going. I know that Ryan was doing a little bit of asset mapping and posting about it, and I am just so curious as to how this has made you think a little bit more, just sort of shifting. I'm hoping that it's shifting your perspective on what you can do, what you're capable of doing, and yay, Vincent's here, and what your potential is. So if you have any thoughts about your asset mapping and about your superpowers and about your values, anything that you did, any work that you have done, just go ahead and put it in the comments, or put it in the comments asynchronously a little bit later after the live if you're watching asynchronously. Okay. So I just want to dive right in and get into this idea of knowing your audience. And the reason why I think it's really, really important when you're doing a revamp of your repertoire to think about your audience is that you want to be able to not just stand in your own power, know who you are, but you want to perform to the right individuals who are going to resonate with your power, and really get the most benefit out of what you can provide. So knowing your audience really means knowing who your community is. I'm just going to launch into a story. So this question comes up a lot in grant applications, and I've done a lot of grant applications because I've been an arts administrator. And even if you aren't an arts administrator, chances are, if you're going to do any kind of self-producing of any project, artistic project, you'll probably have to write a grant at one point or another. And this is usually one of the questions on a grant application is, who is your audience? Part of the reason why people ask that question is the reason that I pointed out. It's like, you need to know who you're playing to in order to be successful. But another part, generally with particularly like funding from government entities or nonprofits or something like that, is that they want to know data, demographics, geographical data, that kind of stuff. And before I had to answer that question, I didn't really think about it. I had really, I had really just kind of thought, well, an audience is an audience, right? They're just the people that show up, and who cares? Like, that's it. But actually, really taking a look and going in my mind's eye and looking out into the audience and sort of seeing the faces there, I realized that even without having to go through any kind of data collection or looking at Facebook Insights or anything like that, I had a pretty good idea of who my audience was, because I could see them. And I think right now it's a little bit different because I can't see all of you, but I do see people commenting. So, hey, Ellie, and thank you so much for coming here. Thanks, Cherry, for putting in your thoughts. I really appreciate it. I will read that a little bit later. So it is a little bit different right now because we will probably have to rely a little bit more on insights from various different platforms like Facebook to release, demographic data and all of that kind of stuff for us to know. But that's also only part of the pie. Anyway, I bring all of that up, especially since we're having a discussion about diversity in repertoire, as we really also need to look at diversity in audiences. And certainly classical arts organizations have been sort of like talking about this for a long time. How do we get our more younger audiences to come to our shows? Like, how do we, bring in different types of communities? And I also see a lot of judgment, online on, the hellscape that is Twitter, that I see a lot of judgment on like large arts organizations that they're not doing enough. And maybe some of that is justified, but also my feeling is that maybe instead of relying on other organizations to do that kind of work, we can do that work right now. And that's like one of the reasons why I'm doing this challenge. And I hope that you're doing this along with me, because we can be the change we want to see in the world. By us changing our own repertoire, we can spur change in larger organizations. I truly, truly believe that. So that's what it means to know your audience. That's why we're talking about this. Now for this, I have, Jeremy's here. Hey, Jeremy. So for this, I've kind of like put an audience into three different kinds of buckets, right? There are three different kinds of audiences that I want you to explore in your mind. The first kind is your fans and followers. That's their sort of like the obvious audience that you think about. And those are the ones that you're going to get like the most demographic data out of Facebook, for example. The second kind of audience is your collaborators or your partners, the people that you want to, like other arts organizations or other artists that you want to be working with. And the third is presenting organizations or arts organizations or ensembles, like larger groups. So for the first one, fans and followers, I want to do a little bit of an exercise called the ideal customer avatar exercise. And I don't know how much any of you know about this. This is a pretty common like marketing exercise. Essentially, what you do is you kind of imagine your like the ideal customer that you want, or the ideal audience, fan, whatever that you want, and really like get very, very detailed. Like give that person a name, are they male or female or both or neither? What age are they? What race are they? Like what do they like to do? Just really like think about that and get very specific. And when you get specific, this is like the weird paradox of marketing, is when you get super specific, it actually helps broaden your reach. So I would say, like that question of like, who is your ideal customer or follower avatar? And maybe to help push this in the direction of your repertoire, who are you passionate about positively impacting with your music? So that's the first bucket of audience, the fans. Second bucket is your collaborators and partners. So The reason I've put this in here is I know that some people are revamping their repertoire for auditions, but other people are thinking about programming for their own ensembles, for recitals, and that kind of stuff. And, when you do, often for recitals, it's not just, at least for me anyway, it's often not just me and a pianist, right? It's me and a harpist and a violinist, or that kind of thing, or me and another group, we're sharing a program. So I think that if you are going to be sharing a program with anybody, that you need to know who they are and make sure that you like them and that you can learn from them. So for that, if you really are interested in collaborating or attracting collaborators, you want to be able to find the right fit. And for that, I would say the question to think about is, who will make you grow? Collaborators are the best people to make you grow. And even the ones who, at least in my experience, the ones who maybe drive you a little nuts sometimes, but you have a really good chemistry. It's almost you get a bag of rocks and you put them together and they shake them up. If you shake it up enough, all of the rocks will get polished. You're actually, with your friction, polishing each other, and that's a very, very, very kind of cool collaboration. Okay, and then the last group here is presenters and organizations, symphonies, operas, choirs, that kind of stuff. So with this one, this is the default audience, I think, for most people. And it certainly has been for me. When I first got out of school, and actually even many years after that, those are the only people that I wanted to perform for. I just wanted to perform for the person who was going to hire me. And I think that that's fine. But I also think that we are entering a paradigm shift. Certainly quarantine has created that. And we don't know when or how larger arts organizations are going to be able to hire us, at least for the near future. There might be some opportunities, but not in the way that there have been. So I would, if I was going to do this, maybe say last year or something like that, I probably would put this at the top of the audiences that you need to know and think about and everything. I still think that it's important to know who your audience is. Obviously, if you're going to, if you really want to get into Hamilton, you're not going to audition with an opera aria, right? So that's you're definitely going to need to know who you're auditioning for, or who the people who are hiring you are going to want to hear. But I think actually now, because we are in kind of a brave new world, maybe it's worth doing some research into the organizations that you want to work for, and just seeing if that organization has a culture that fits with your values. We did all of that work on values yesterday, and I think that being able to work with a group that has the same values, that is the best. And if you are working for a group that doesn't align with that, then you're just going to feel terrible. And I've certainly worked for organizations, done gigs and stuff for basically kind of for the money. Again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But that's not what this is about. This is about finding who you are, making you shine, making the music that you're doing shine. And if that means working with an organization that actually aligns with who you are, that's going to not just make you shine, but make that organization shine too. So the question that I would say for the presenters, like what do you want to think about with that larger group, is who do you feel the most excited about playing with? So that's like kind of my like Marie Kondo spark joy thing. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely like an opportunity for change and for shifting, and for all of us to kind of reimagine what our careers are going to be like, or are like right now. And while we're doing that, I think it's super, super, super important for us to know who the audience is that we are performing for. Because it isn't just enough to know who you are. It really is like to find that match between who you are and who your audience is. Like that's this sort of sweet spot. And I mean, let's like seriously, recipe for success. Okay, questions on all of that. I know I kind of like dropped a whole bunch of stuff on you guys. So, and I also don't know if there's like I think there's a little bit of a delay on the comments. So I'm gonna wait for a second. All right, well, if there aren't any questions, I will give you your, Cherry, thank you so much. Cherry says, this is harder than I thought. My ideal audience member is tricky for me. I kind of want the ideal person to be someone who's interested in my values, but doesn't think they like classical singing. And then they go away transformed, unrealistic. Ooh, this is great, Cherry. Okay. Why do you think it's unrealistic? You don't have to answer here, but I just to think about as you go on. Because to me, I think there is a real audience there. Like there's more than one person who would totally be interested in your values. And you had written values and interests, interfaith connections, absolutely. Women's voices, women composers, all are one, a very communal spirit, a Negro spirituals. That's fantastic. And so you want that person who's interested in all of those values, but they don't think they like classical singing. And so maybe there's got to be some way to like get them hooked, get them in the room listening, and then like have their mind blown. Like what a great mission. What an amazing mission. And there are totally people like that out there. So I would not say I want them to go to recital thinking classical singing is cool, but what gets them to show up to the recital? Yeah. Good question. All right, so I'm going to get to Ellie too. How would you then go about reaching that audience member once you've identified them? Okay, so audience outreach is kind of another thing. So this is where demographics can be useful. You can certainly find, from a social media perspective, find that person, find, what they're interested in, and then follow a lot of their same interests and do, use hashtags to, create posts that will align with those interests. So get them to notice you first. And the more content you produce that will get them to notice you, the more they'll just kind of like, they'll get on your train. They're going to pay attention to just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And that's really about being consistent with the content that you put out. That's basic like social media marketing 101 is consistency and hashtags. But the sort of larger question, and this one is a tough one, is like, how do you find that person who may not be interested or may not think that they're interested in what you have to come? And I think for me, my gut is saying, go to where they are. Go to where they are first. And, kind of meet them on their level. And I don't know what that means for you, but meet them on their level, and then kind of like take them by the hand, like get them to know and like and trust you. Take them by the hand and then introduce them to something new. They're not going to go straight to something new unless they know, like, and trust you. So you definitely have to start by meeting them on their level. Yeah. Cool. Good. I'm glad that makes sense, Ellie. Awesome. All right. So let's get to the homework. Homework is brainstorm your dream audience. Are they like a specific group of or genre of fans, maybe an ideal collaborator or your dream organization, or any combination? So after you've brainstormed, you just like write that's one of those, like, just write it all out, whatever, no judgment. And after you've brainstormed, pick 1 to 3 of your favorite answers. And this is my favorite thing. Imagine yourself in the future performing for that ideal audience. What kind of music are you performing, and how are you feeling? How are you feeling during the performance and after the performance when you're interacting with that audience? And then, write down your answer. So I'm just going to write in, how are you feeling? Because I just made that up. How are you feeling? Okay, now I will copy and paste. Right there. Boom. Awesome. So that is the end of day 3. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm really curious to see what your thoughts are about your audience, and I hope this was helpful. Don't forget about the social media contest. It's still open. I see some people doing some posting, and that makes me really happy. And I'm just like, I can't wait to join you tomorrow. We are going to be talking about goals tomorrow, knowing your goals, and I'm just thrilled to be doing this with you. Thanks so much for joining me. I will see you tomorrow.